There comes a time, often quiet and unspoken, when the body begins to prepare for its final goodbye. Not through pain, not through drama, but through something far more gentle. A soft slowing down, like dusk settling in after a long, bright day. Doctors who work in hospitals, hospices, and care homes witness this more often than most. And over time, they've come to notice the signs, not just physical, but deeply human. One of the first things they often see is more sleep. Elderly patients begin to spend longer hours resting, not from exhaustion, but from something deeper. Their bodies, once so active, now begin to conserve energy, as if they know that the journey is nearing its final stretch. They sleep through meals. They sleep through visits. And when they do wake, it's often with a faraway look in their eyes, not confused, but peaceful, as if they've already begun to drift between two worlds. Then there's the change in appetite. They stop eating as much. Sometimes they stop eating altogether. This often worries family members, but to those who understand the process of dying, it is not a sign of suffering. It's a sign of release. The body no longer demands, it no longer clings, it begins to let go. And with that letting go comes another shift. Less speaking, more silence. People begin to talk less, not because they can't, but because words feel too heavy now. What needs to be said has already been said. What needs to be felt is already understood. Sometimes a quiet smile is all they give. Sometimes a gentle hand squeeze is their last "I love you." It's in these small gestures that the most profound goodbyes are spoken. Doctors say that during these moments, a strange peace begins to fill the room. It's not the absence of life, it's the presence of surrender. The heart is still beating, the lungs still rise and fall, but the soul has started to turn inward, gathering its memories, making its peace. This isn't fear, it's not pain, it's a natural rhythm, like the tide going out. And those who witness it closely often say the same thing. They weren't fighting, they were ready. In the next part, we'll explore what doctors have seen in the final hours, not just in the body, but in the eyes, the spirit, the unspoken energy that fills the room just before someone takes their final sleep. As the final hours draw near, something begins to shift, not just in the body, but in the space around the person. Doctors and nurses who've sat beside many beds say it's almost like time slows down. The room feels different, quieter, softer, as if the world itself is leaning in, listening. One of the most powerful things they notice is in the eyes. There's a distant gaze, but it's not lost. It's not confused. It's as if the person is looking through you. Not because they don't see you, but because they're beginning to see something beyond you. Some call it seeing the other side. Some say it's the brain replaying old memories. But doctors who've been there often say the same thing. It feels like they're already halfway home. Then comes the change in breathing. At first, it may grow slower, then more shallow. Sometimes there are long pauses between breaths, a pattern called chain stokes, a natural rhythm near the end. To those unfamiliar, it can sound alarming. But to those who've seen it before, it's part of the body's gentle way of stepping back. It's not gasping, it's not struggling. It's more like waves pulling away from the shore, less frequent, less urgent, until they simply stop. Many doctors recall a final exhale that feels different. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, it's often quiet, light, like a whisper leaving the chest. And then, stillness. But what's even more mysterious than the body is the energy in the room. Some say it feels sacred. Some say it feels like love has taken form. Some nurses light candles, others just sit in silence, hand in hand, because they know something holy is happening. And sometimes, just before that last breath, a person will open their eyes wide, as if seeing someone they haven't seen in years. A parent, a partner, a child. They may whisper a name, smile faintly, or let a single tear fall. Doctors have stopped trying to explain this. They just witness it and honor it. Because in those final moments, the person is not afraid. They are not alone. They are simply going home. In the next part, we'll explore what families often misunderstand in these final hours, and how the silence, the stillness, and even the distance might actually be the most profound act of love and letting go. For families, the final hours of a loved one's life can feel confusing, even painful. You sit by the bedside, holding their hand, waiting for them to speak, to open their eyes, to say one last "I love you." But instead, there is quiet. No words, no response. And in that silence, many people begin to worry. Are they still here? Can they hear me? Have they already gone? Doctors and hospice nurses see this often. They know how heavy it feels when someone you love seems to drift away before they've even taken their last breath. But here's what they want families to understand. Silence is not absence. Stillness is not a lack of love. It is often the most sacred kind of presence. Because in those final moments, the body and soul are doing something deeply personal. They are letting go. And that process doesn't always involve words. In fact, it often doesn't. Instead of speaking, your loved one may offer small, quiet gestures, a soft squeeze of the hand, a gentle tear, a faint smile that appears for just a second, or simply their breath, steady and calm, as if to say, "I'm at peace now. You can be too." Families sometimes fear that their loved one didn't know they were there. But those who've studied end-of-life care believe something beautiful. Hearing is one of the last senses to go. Even in deep unresponsiveness, many patients can still hear your voice, still feel your presence, still receive your love. So even if they don't speak back, your words still matter, your touch still comforts, your presence still reaches them. And perhaps the greatest gift you can give in those final hours is not to ask for more moments, but to offer this one fully, without fear, without rushing, just being there. Because death, at its softest, is not a battle, it's a return. And those who are returning don't always speak, they don't always cry, they simply begin to rest, fully, peacefully, deeply. In the next part, we'll explore what doctors and nurses have learned from watching so many final moments, and how those experiences can change the way we live, even while we're still here. Something unexpected happens to doctors and nurses who have spent years beside the dying. They don't become numb, they don't grow cold, and no, they don't stop feeling. In fact, many say the opposite is true. They become more aware, more grounded, and strangely, more alive. Because when you sit at the edge of life enough times, you begin to see what truly matters and what never really did. Many doctors who've spent hours in quiet rooms beside elderly patients don't talk about dramatic moments or last-minute miracles. They talk about something else, something softer, something deeply human. They say that death, when it comes naturally and without fear, is not frightening. It doesn't rush in. It settles in, like evening light at the end of a long day. Gentle, still, almost beautiful. And what's even more remarkable is what the dying teach the living. After witnessing hundreds of final breaths, doctors begin to live differently. They listen more carefully, they hold their children longer, they say "I love you" sooner, because they've heard the regrets, they've seen the tears, they've watched people pass on with something still left unsaid, a hand not held, an apology not given, a word of comfort that waited too long. They've heard elderly men whisper, "I wish I had forgiven her." And elderly women say, "I should have called more." They've seen people ask for someone who left long ago, hoping for just one more chance to say "thank you," or "I'm sorry," or simply, "I miss you." What doctors learn in those quiet rooms isn't about medicine, it's about meaning. They learn that no one, in the final hour, cares about money. No one asks for their diplomas, their awards, their titles. They don't talk about what they owned. They talk about who they loved. They talk about moments they rushed through, moments they took for granted, moments they now see were the most important of all. A quiet morning by the window, a family dinner with laughter, the sound of someone they loved calling their name, a hug they never thought would be the last. And from this, doctors carry home an invisible inheritance, the wisdom to live better, to stop waiting, to forgive faster, to pay attention, to hold hands longer, to let the people they love know it while they still can. One doctor once said, "After watching so many peaceful deaths, I started asking myself, why don't we live more peacefully too?" And maybe that's the most sacred gift the dying leave behind. Not fear, not sadness, but perspective. A gentle reminder that we are all here for a short time, that every ordinary day is actually extraordinary, that silence can be holy, and that love, not perfection, is what we'll carry with us when it's time to go. In the next part, we return to the softest truth of all, that the final sleep is not something to fear, but something to understand, so that we may live calmly, kindly, and completely while we still have time. By the time a person takes their final breath, something has already shifted long before. Their body may have grown still, their voice may have fallen silent, but something else, something much greater, remains. Doctors who witness death often say this: the moment of passing is not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not what movies make it out to be. Instead, it's soft, like a sigh, like a wave pulling back into the ocean. There is no need to fear it, because for many who reach the end of life after a long journey, it is not pain they feel, it is peace. And for those who remain, for those left holding a hand that no longer holds back, there is grief, yes, but also there can be understanding. Because once you know how natural this process is, once you realize how the body and soul prepare gently, slowly, without panic, you begin to see that death isn't a thief. It is a return to rest, a return to stillness, a return to the love that made you, held you, shaped you. In the final sleep, there is no fear, no more running, no more proving, just quiet and grace. And maybe that's what we all hope for deep down, to go gently, to be surrounded by love, to be remembered not for what we achieved, but for how we made others feel. Doctors who've stood beside hundreds of beds have seen that this is possible. They've seen people go peacefully without regret, without fear, because they had lived well, loved deeply, and let go freely. That is the real gift. Not just a peaceful death, but a life lived with presence. So let this be your reminder. If you're still here, still breathing, still able to feel these words, you still have time. Time to love, time to forgive, time to say what you've held back, time to sit beside someone you care about without rushing away. Time to notice how the light comes through your window in the morning, how tea tastes on a quiet afternoon, how your heart still beats, still softens, still wants. And if you've lost someone who took their final sleep with grace, know this: they were not alone. They were not afraid. They left with more peace than pain, and maybe, just maybe, they would want you to live with less fear and more gentleness. Because the final sleep is not the end of everything. It is the beginning of something sacred, a whisper back to where we came from. And while we are still here, we are being invited to live more fully, to be less afraid, and to love openly, honestly, quietly, while we still can. If this video brought you peace, if it helped you feel less afraid, or simply reminded you that love continues, even after the final breath, then I invite you to stay with us. Here on Golden Pathways, we speak softly about the things many people are too afraid to name: aging, letting go, memory, loss, and the quiet beauty of life's final chapters. If these gentle reflections bring you comfort, please subscribe to the channel. Not because you need more noise in your life, but because sometimes a quiet voice can help carry you through the day. And if you feel ready, leave a comment below. You can write a name, a memory, or simply a few words about someone you loved, someone who has already taken their final sleep. This space is for you. You are not alone, you are not forgotten, and no matter where you are on the path, we're walking alongside you. Thank you for being here.